You're listening to Simply the Best Sports Take, the best podcast breaking down the best stuff in sports with host Sean Bingham. His takes are so good, he dropped the mic, but then you wouldn't be able to hear him, and that would suck.
Welcome into STB Sports Take, Simply the Best Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Bingham. Thank you for being here. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor Podcasts. Everywhere you get your podcasts, we are there. Thank you for joining us. Please hit that subscribe button. Today's a fun podcast. It's been about a week since I last did one. I hope you had a great Labor Day weekend. I know I sure did. I went down to southern Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, even down into the Keys. Hit a place called Christ of the Abyss. It's a few miles off the coast of Key Largo. It's been on my travel bucket list for 6 years now. It's a 9 foot tall, 600 pound, 900 pounds, something like that, almost 1,000 pounds. Bronze statue of Jesus sunk 25 feet down below the surface of the water, and it's been sitting there since the early 60s. It's one of 3 such statues in the world, and it's just this like awesome feature. There's fish all around it. It's a coral reef. It's just like this sunken treasure type of thing that I've been wanting to go check out for many years now. Finally did. It was amazing. Hope you guys had a good Labor Day weekend yourselves. Fun podcast today. Why? Because college football season started. NFL is about to start. Things are looking good. Things are looking mighty, mighty good right now for the podcast world. Football is, I always say football is my favorite sport during football season. Basketball is my favorite sport during basketball season. So I'm stoked. Football is here. It's finally here. The Bucs and the Cowboys tonight. I'm going to tell you right now, my money is on the Bucs to win and to win pretty big. I'm in a Pick'ems league. Bucs are favored by 7.5. I picked them to cover that spread. Home game, defending champs. Cowboys are a good team. I'll go through my division champ predictions today. Today's mainly about college football, BYU versus Utah rivalry, and the fall of college football and why I'm down on it. I'm going to hate on college football for a while, even though I do like it. It's nothing compared to the NFL, just like college basketball is nothing compared to the NBA, but I do like it still, and we're going to talk all about that and some of the negative things and how they can fix it. But I'm going to take the Bucs to win tonight. Tom Brady, season 22, unbelievable stuff. He's 44 years old, unbelievable. So I'm taking the Bucs tonight to win. College football is already underway. NFL kicks off tonight. College football is already underway, and this weekend, big rivalry for the state of Utah, where I live and where many of my listeners live, and that is the BYU versus Utah game. So BYU and Utah, it used to be a really, really big rivalry. It's kind of fallen off a little bit. And here's my beef with college football. The title of this podcast, I've already decided, and we'll see how long it is, but it's the fall of the BYU versus Utah rivalry and college football. I mean, that's what's going on here. Like, the BYU versus Utah rivalry, it used to be so big, and it's just not anymore. It's just not. And you want to know why? A couple reasons why. One, college sports just aren't what they used to be. They're just not. Like, people are going pro younger. There's a lot of other leagues out there, especially in basketball, not so much in football. But it's just so predictable. College football is the most predictable sport of all of them. Like, literally, tell me another sport that has less parity than college football. There isn't one. There is not another sport that has less parity than college football. College basketball, you get March Madness and all sorts of things can happen. The NBA and NFL, way more parity than college football. College football, we already know. I have not looked at college football at all in the last several months. The entire offseason, I couldn't tell you anything, okay? But I already know Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson. Like, those are the teams. Those are the teams to beat. We already know it because that's what it is every single freaking year. There's no parity. And so these teams, like I live in Utah, and the University of Utah fans, they want so badly for Utah to be relevant. And I guess Utah is in the sense that like they'll be nationally ranked. They might compete for a Pac-12 championship. But ultimately in like the national championship scheme of things, they're completely irrelevant. There's like 9 teams tops that are relevant each year. And Utah is never one of them. BYU is never one of them. And most teams are never one of them because there's I put it down here. There's 127 Division I teams. 127. It should have the most parity of any sport, but it has the least. It is the ultimate rich get richer sport. Of all of the sports, None of them do the rich get richer in more than in college football. It's actually really annoying. It's just the Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, occasionally LSU gets in there, maybe Michigan, Notre Dame. It's just the same old story every single year. You don't even have to like be a student of the game to know what's going to happen. Put your money on Alabama, you're going to win. So I've said this over and over again. I'm a fan of sport over any team. Always. I'm always a fan of the sport over any team. And so I love football, but I just don't feel like if you disrespect a sport, then don't expect my support. That rhymed, and I didn't mean for it to. But if you're disrespecting the sport, then don't expect my support, okay? And what I mean by that is when you're scheduling a bunch of cupcakes and winning by, 30, 40 points, just so you can, have an easy schedule, go undefeated, have a chance to get into the college football playoffs, or to not make sure you don't have a blemish on your resume, for the non-conference games, whatever, then I'm sorry, I'm just not into that. I don't support that. That's boring. That's stupid. That's a poor product. I don't want to watch that. And so scheduling garbage teams to ensure a win is gaming the system, and it's disrespecting the sport. It is. Last week, Utah played Weber State. Weber State, okay? You've never heard of Weber State unless you live in Utah. That's who Utah scheduled, the University of Utah. Pac-12 school, nationally ranked. They're scheduling Weber State. I get it. There's an in-state, whatever there, but no, there's not. Come on. It's like apples and oranges. Weber State and Utah, it's a joke. We watch Alabama play these teams we've never heard, Florida Atlantic and Troy and all these teams we've never heard of, and they win by 60. Where's the fun in that? How does anybody support that? Why would you support that? They're mocking the game. They're disrespecting the sport when they schedule those games. They are. They just are. There needs to be a stop to it. They need to have way more divisions within college football. Division 1, 127 teams, 4 of them make the playoffs. 4. And we had to fight tooth and nail just to get to 4. It was just 2 forever. And now 4 out of 127 have a real chance to win a national have a chance to win a national championship. And guess what? There's 8 teams that cycle through the 4 that get to be in there at the end of each year. And we've gone through what they are. I have not looked at anything. This is a true story. I've not looked at anything. I'm going to look up right now who the favorites are to win this season, okay? I've already told you, I already know it's going to be Alabama and Clemson for sure will be up there. Ohio State's always up there. Georgia has been good historically and recently especially. So we know they're all going to be up there. Then you have your Oklahomas that are typically there. Texas has been, but not recently. Like I said, LSU has been here and there. So let's just look. So I'm going to go to my thelines.com for the college football odds. Okay. And let's see here. Okay, odds to win a national championship, 21-22. Can't make this stuff up. Alabama number 1, Georgia number 2, Ohio State number 3, Clemson number 4. Do any of these teams sound familiar? Yeah, they're the ones I just mentioned. Oklahoma number 5, Texas A&M. I did not mention them, but yeah, that they're another one that's typically there. Oh, Iowa State, that's one I would not expect. I'll have to look into why that is. Florida, Penn State. I mean, come on, Texas, LSU. It's the same freaking teams. Oregon, Notre Dame. It's the same teams every single year. There's no parity. The system is broken. College sports are broken. So I don't support them as much. I'm all about professional sports. I will talk college football on this podcast. I'm hoping that this particular podcast is ruffling a bunch of feathers because there's a bunch of college football people, in the state of Utah that they just love the Utes so much. Like, oh, go Utes. We're going to go 10-2 and finish second in the Pac-12 South. And have all these reasons why we were right there, barely missed it, should have won this. We were right there for a championship. No, you weren't. You never have been. You probably never will be. Stop it. Okay. That's gonna really do some good. Okay. So again, 127 teams. 4 of them get a real chance. Maybe we'll get it to up to 8, but let's just get some extra divisions in here. The NFL has 32 teams. NBA has 30. And, college football has 127. It's stupid. Do multiple championships. Do multiple divisions, multiple championships. put a decent number of teams in the real playoff system, make them play, and win. Make it illegal to schedule games against teams that are not in your division. They should never have Troy State versus Alabama. You should not have University of Utah versus Weber State, and have it be a game that actually matters on their record towards the national championship potential, playoff potential. If they want to do an exhibition game that's meaningless, go for it. That's some fun in-state stuff. But really, that's what college football has become. It's like the whole season is exhibition, especially if you're BYU. BYU is not in a conference, and so they're not fighting for a conference championship. They're not good enough to fight for a national championship. Sorry, BYU fans. You're as delusional as Utah fans are when it comes to that. Last year, we were not good enough to compete for a national championship. We were not. We played a bunch of nobodies. It was a COVID year. We were not that good, okay? And then we showed it by losing to Coastal Carolina. So BYU is not there either. And so how can you make it relevant? Conferences do make it relevant. Fighting for a conference championship is fun. Utah, I was hating just a second ago. Utah does have a chance to win a Pac-12 championship. That's a real goal for them. They could do it. They could. They could beat USC. They could beat Oregon. They could do it. BYU just beat a Pac-12 team in Arizona last week while Utah played mighty Weber State. So BYU could get into a conference. They're looking at trying to get into the Big 12. Again, Big 12 is on the brink of annihilation here, and so maybe they let BYU in, and that could help BYU out and the Big 12 out, because BYU has been irrelevant for some time now. Even when they win a lot of games as a conferenceless team, as an independent, you're irrelevant. Like, what are you fighting for? You don't have a national championship that you're fighting for. You don't have a conference championship that you're fighting for. So what are you fighting for? Just some fun exhibition games. It's like a glorified intramural game, honestly. It's just an intramural game where the talent level's higher and there's more fans there. That's it. It's just completely for fun. I'm too much of a competitor to really appreciate that. I like sports. It's fun. I'll watch the games. I still follow BYU. I'm still a fan of BYU. But not even a fraction of what I used to be. I didn't miss a home game for years. When BYU was in the Mountain West and they were fighting against TCU and Utah for the conference championship year after year, all three teams were nationally ranked year after year. That was freaking fun. That was really freaking fun. Also, I was younger. I think as I get older, I find it's kind of like cheering for your high school years after you've graduated from high school. It's like, dude, move on. Move on. Now, college sports, obviously the competition and the talent level is much higher than high school, but the same goes from college to NFL and college to NBA. The talent level, it just jumps dramatically. And again, find me a sport where there's less parity than college football. And parity is good. Parity sells tickets. Parity equals drama. Drama drives viewership. That's just how it works. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Georgia, LSU, we get it. Those are the schools. Just put them in their own division, okay? Let the rich keep getting richer. And now with the deal where the student athletes, so stupid we even call them that, we know there's illegal recruiting going on everywhere. We know these students, especially the top players in the top schools, there's massive amounts of cheating going on when it comes to their actual scholastic studies. There's TAs doing their work for them. There's people that are for sure doing their homework for them, taking their tests for them, maybe even. Let's just make it a semi-pro sport. That's essentially what it is. So now they get to make money off of their name and likeness and image, okay? And with that, you're only going to see the rich continue to get richer, like I mentioned the other last week in the podcast about the Ohio State commit. He's freaking in high school still. And he just made $1 million for an autograph deal. And he's just enrolling in Ohio State now. And so there's so much money, and that comes greatly with bigger conferences, or bigger schools rather. And so the big schools are going to keep getting better and better recruits now. It's going to make it harder and harder for 120 of these 127 schools to actually compete. So why not just form other divisions and have other championships? How is that not better? It just is. It's better. So I think they need to do it. I think they need to break it into 3 or 4 divisions, honestly, And you can have teams move up and down within divisions as years go by. They do this in soccer leagues over in Europe all the time. Where it's like, hey, you qualified for this division or this league this year, but not next. Then the next year you're there and you compete and you don't quite make it and you drop a league for the next season until you earn your way back up. Why not do that in college sports? That would create some real parity. That would create some real drama. You'd get it because some of these teams like Texas would have been knocked out of that upper league, for several years in the last little bit. Whereas historically they were always there. So then they'd be fighting for recruits. A&M has worked their way up into the upper league when they had been previously down below. So I think it'd be so much better if it was broken up into 3 40-team leagues or something like that. That would be really fun. So I think it's broken. We know that, like I say, there's more blowouts than any sport. And the only thing I can think of right now, the U.S. Open's going on for tennis. And the only thing I can think of that has less parity than college football would be tennis. But that's an individual sport. Like we know it's for the last 2 decades, it's been Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic, and that's pretty much it. Andy Murray was like a close 4th place for a while. But those 3 guys, Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal, they have dominated all the Grand Slams and majors for the last 2 decades. They just have. But guess what? In an individual sport, that's kind of fun because there's nothing unfair about it. It's just one person versus one person, and that one person is just flat out better. To me, watching an individual sport dominance is very similar to watching like the Chicago Bulls dominance, where it's like, wow, this is so difficult to do, and they are doing it, Because in basketball, one player can affect the game, the outcome of the game, way more than one player in football can. Unless that player is a quarterback, then it's arguable. But even then, other than Tom Brady, what quarterback has had an impact on the game like someone like LeBron James or Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant? None of them. Not even Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning won 2 Super Bowls, and one of them he was kind of a game manager, And so, to me, the parity or the lack of parity in college football is a huge downfall. And while tennis is just as bad, to me, it actually makes tennis more exciting because it's so impressive to watch one person dominate so thoroughly. Whereas at Alabama and at Clemson, it's like, cool, you just have better boosters and you recruit better talent and there's this trend, this snowball effect where everything just starts flowing your way. You could argue the head coach, makes the biggest difference in college football. In fact, I would say that is what makes the biggest difference. Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, those guys get it done. But in the end, there's 22 players that start on a college football team, 11 on offense, 11 on defense. And that's not even to mention special teams, but we'll just take the main offense, defensive sides of the ball. There's 22 players. Tennis, there's 1. And so in college football, to dominate that thoroughly, there clearly has to be an unfair advantage that's taking place when there's 22 guys involved and you consistently are winning. There's 3 starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now that were all on Alabama at the same time. Okay, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, and Mac Jones were all on Alabama's team at the same time 3 years ago. All 3 of them on the same team. All 3 of them will start in week 1 for the NFL this weekend. All 3 of them. You can't tell me there's not an unfair advantage that Alabama has. Come on. 3 starting quarterbacks in the NFL were on the same team at the same time in college. There's not even 3 starting quarterbacks in the NFL on the same team in the NFL because only one of them can start. So there, you could argue there was more quarterback talent at Alabama 3 years ago than on any NFL team. That's how unfair of an advantage Alabama has right now. So the positives to college sports are the kids play really hard. The fan bases make it really fun. You do get the fireworks of the rivalries, occasionally and things like that. The rivalries are fun to follow. Michigan, Ohio State, things like that. The top teams, in college football, they are mega talented and fun to watch. The Clemsons and the Alabamas, they are fun to watch because there's so much talent going to the NFL. And like I say always, I like to watch the top tier talent. And so that's my issue with college football. The BYU-Utah rivalry, this thing has just fallen apart. It's practically non-existent. So Utah joined the Pac-12. They agreed to join the Pac-12 on June 17th, 2010. The next year, 2011, was the first year they competed in the Pac-12. But since that announcement to now, it's been 12 years, And Utah has not lost a game since then to BYU. So BYU is winless against Utah in the last 12 years. 9-0 is Utah, so 0-9 is BYU. They've had last year they didn't play because of COVID. There was another year they didn't play, and then this year is the 12th. So 0-9 in the last 12 years is BYU versus Utah. Before that, the decade preceding, the 10 years preceding that announcement, that Utah was going to the Pac-12, they were 5-5 against each other. 5-5. Both teams consistently ranked in the top 25 at the time of meeting. Games were consistently very close, decided by one score. There were the occasional, larger margins of defeat, but for the most part, it was close. But this rivalry has completely fallen apart. BYU is irrelevant. They're fighting for nothing. And I think that a win for BYU could reignite this rivalry, because not only does BYU need to win to show Utah, guess what? We're still here. Guess what? We can wreck your season. We can wreck your chances at making a playoff, because that's what they think they can aspire to. And a loss to BYU would wreck that for sure. Pac-12 is already one of the weaker Big Five conferences. You lose an out-of-conference game to an unranked BYU, not going to look very good on the resume for the college football playoffs. You can still go win your conference championship, but when it comes down time to choosing the 4 teams to go to the playoffs, they're not choosing a one-loss Pac-12 champion where they lost to BYU at a conference. They're not doing it. So a loss to BYU wrecks any hope that the Utes have of a national championship, which they don't actually have any real hope there. It's cute of them to think that they do, but they don't. Like, they have no chance. In fact, if there was a way to bet against the Utes, if Vegas offered bet that the Utes will not win the national championship, I would put all sorts of money into that. And you'd be stupid if you wouldn't, which is why Vegas doesn't offer it. But yeah, the rivalry was so exciting. All 3 teams, like I say, with TCU being the 3rd, ranked nationally, fighting to bust the BCS. Utah was the ones that did it, the first team to ever do it. And then they did it again a few years later. And so, but when you have like number 17 versus number 14 nationally ranked, this is for the conference championship. Those were fun times. Those were really fun times. College game day came a couple of times. But yeah, in the last 12 years, Utah's just run away with it. It's not even close. It's not even kind of close. And so this rivalry can be reignited with a BYU victory, and then BYU needs to be relevant nationally, and relevant just in that sense, because I know I've said that they're irrelevant, but relevant in that sense would be get ranked. So be ranked. Be in the top 25 at the end of a season and beat Utah that season. Then the next season, be preseason ranked in the top 25, both of you, and BYU just won the previous year. Then all of a sudden it would be like, okay, the rivalry might be back on. And if BYU can get into a conference like a Big 12, then it would be on even more. But right now, Utah has not much to gain by playing BYU. Really, they don't. BYU has everything to gain by playing and beating Utah. And so it's very lopsided in who actually cares about the game and who doesn't. And the team that cares the most about it, BYU, gets beat every single year. It's like they're clearly the little brother. And I'm a BYU fan. This shows you how honest I'm being with this entire podcast. BYU is the little brother getting beat up on over and over and over again. And they need to grow up, fight back, and all of a sudden Big Brother's going to be like, shoot, this is an even match now, Right now it's just not. But yeah, the decade prior to Utah announcing they were going to the Pac-12, 5-5. 5-5. That was some fun stuff. Overall, I've got it pulled up on this other screen. I'll pull it over here so I can read it better. So overall, there's been 100 meetings. Utah leads 62-34-4. The longest streak for any team is 9. Currently, for Utah, 9 in a row. Utah did it also in the leather helmet days of the 30s. And then BYU did it from 1979 to 1987. So both teams have a 9-game win streak against the other. Utah's done it twice. BYU did it once. And Utah is currently looking for number 10, which would be the first ever 10-game win streak for either of these teams against the other. Both have done 9. Nobody's done 10. So that game is Saturday. I'm going to pick BYU. I am picking BYU to break the curse, to end the streak, to keep the longest ever streak at 9, as a dead tie. Last year, BYU was really good. Kalani Sitake has finally come into his own as the head coach. BYU looked phenomenal last year. It was really unfortunate they didn't get to play Utah because I think that would have been their best chance. Zach Wilson, we just saw go number 2 overall in the NFL draft. He was the quarterback. BYU had a great team last year, and COVID kind of robbed them of what could have been a really special season. And they didn't even get to play Utah. Utah had to pick and choose. Pac-12 was very strict, and they just had to get rid of that game. But something my good friend Bo Winder pointed out is that the last time BYU won, which is, of course, 2009, the quarterback was Max Hall. Now it's Jaron Hall. No, they're not related, but the last name is the same. So maybe that breaks the streak. And BYU can get a win for this decade. They didn't get one all last decade. Literally the entire decade of 2010 through 2019, they did not get a win. So now we're 2020 decade. Let's see if they can get one here. I'm going to predict that BYU does win on Saturday. The game is at Lavelle Edwards Stadium in Provo, which is BYU's turf. It's only a 30-40 minute drive, but still, stadium's going to be packed and rocking with BYU fans. It's their home turf. I think they get it done. I think the intimidation is... Utah has intimidated BYU so thoroughly, and I feel like that's subsiding under Kalani Sitake, and I feel like this team's ready to do it. And the rivalry needs it so bad. It's I'm just praying that it does happen, so that BYU can get another W, make this rivalry more exciting because it's needed really, really badly. Okay, moving on. I want to talk real quick. We're going to end with this: my NFL division predictions before the season kicks off. So here we are, Thursday. This will be posted before the Bucs and the Cowboys kick off tonight. I'm predicting the Bucs win that game. I want to have my division predictions on record, written in ink, written in Sharpie before the season starts at all. So in the AFC East, I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills. In the AFC North, I'm taking the Browns. Yes, the Cleveland Browns. I'm taking them, with the Ravens being right there as a close second. That's a good division. Steelers as well, but I'm taking the Browns to win that. AFC South, I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans. AFC West, no-brainer, the Chiefs. Moving on to the NFC, the East, I'm going to take my Washington football team. I probably think the Cowboys are going to win it, but I cannot pick the Cowboys. I hate the Cowboys. And I do think Washington, their defense is tops in the league, and they've got a better quarterback situation than they did last year. Not by much, but they do have a little bit better situation with Ryan Fitzpatrick. So if they won the division last year, why not win it again this year? Washington football team in the NFC East. NFC North, no-brainer, the Packers. Green Bay Packers are going to win it for sure. NFC South, the Bucs. And then the NFC West, probably the most competitive and toughest one to decide. You've got the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Rams, and the 49ers. I'm going to take the 49ers. I think the Rams will be right there. I don't know if I believe in Matthew Stafford. He's mega talented, but is he a winner? He certainly wasn't in Detroit. Los Angeles thinks he can be more than Jared Goff. They shipped Jared Goff over to Detroit and brought in Matthew Stafford. I'm excited to watch that unfold. I'll take the Rams to finish second behind the 49ers. So those are my NFL predictions. Again, AFC East, Bills. AFC North, Browns over the Ravens. South, the Titans. West, the Chiefs. Into the NFC, the East, Washington football team. North, Packers. South, Bucs. West, 49ers. Those are the STB Sports Take NFL predictions, and I am excited for this weekend. I hope you guys enjoy all of the football we have ahead of us for the next few days, and I will see you on Monday. I am out. Peace.
Thanks for hanging with Simply the Best Sports Take. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and check out STBSportsTake.com. Simply the best in sports.
'Cause we are